What's up, everybody? I'm Dr. Peter Boulden, and we have the famous Dr. Craig Spodak, and we are coming to you guys after a quite the hiatus after the summit. We put a lot of shows in the can and prepared for the summit, and we had enough to kind of go. So we haven't been podcasting. So Craig feels like a podcasting virgin again, he says.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. It's good to be back. I wouldn't call this a hiatus. I think this is a break.
Oh, well, hiatus makes me sound like I have my vernacular.
Yeah, it's true.
It's really impressive.
Yeah, it's true.
So
a hiatus is reserved for professors, I think.
No, it's not.
I never use that word in context, though. I never use that word.
I do.
Obviously you do. You just dropped it.
Yeah.
That summit was awesome, though. We were so happy with the turnout, and Pete and I put that on with let's give it a whirl, and hopefully people like what we have to say. And pleasantly surprised. We got a lot of good feedback, a lot of good camaraderie, a lot of mastermind happened from it, and I learned a lot. I'm sure you feel the same way, Pete.
Yeah, I honestly, I think I was pretty scared to do something like that because, like as we always say, it wasn't about a revenue producing event. It was more about a value and a thing. And so I was more concerned over people's time and money and making sure. So I was obsessed with losing sleep just because I wanted to make sure, because I've been to some shitty conferences in my life that literally I've flown halfway across the country and I'm like, oh my God. And you almost panic because you think about the time opportunity, not so much the money, but it's the time opportunity lost. Right. So I was obsessive about that. I would literally, Greg, I don't think I told you that I was obsessed waking up 2 a.m. thinking like, okay, what can we do? And that's why with like a lot of these, we have a lot of these sheets that we still talk about, that I had all these sheets made because I wanted to make sure, like in the event that we just kind of shit the bed on stage and nothing went right, at least there were some tangible tools to go home with that we could preemptively, created. So sorry, I just went on a tangent there, but
no, it's good.
It's important. I think it's the thesis of our entire podcast, really. That's why I wanted to say that. So anyway, it was awesome. We've been asked to do it in the winter time, and Craig was amenable to that, like doing 2 a year, because people really just the feedback we got was super humbling, honestly. And I got kind of emotional about it because it's always been a long goal. I think you as well, because you're definitely the emotional one of the two of us.
I think I did cry from stage or get teary-eyed in stage.
100% you did.
No, I was close. I got choked up, but there was no water flowing from my eyes. Yeah. If you were there, please comment in my defense. I didn't actually tear. It was just more shaky voice. It was fine. I'm not upset about that. That was fun for me.
No, it was good. But anyway, the feedback was people like, you got to do this again, because it really was. We covered so much in a day and a half, and I think it was literally, people use the analogy or the metaphor of the fire hose, but literally, I almost felt bad sometimes because we were just having to blast stuff because we wanted to make sure it was delivered. So people were asking, let's do it. Let's do one again, and maybe a niche one on marketing or leadership or whatever in February, but. Based on our bandwidth and availability and calendar, and it's a lot of work. So I think we're just gonna wait until October next year to do it again.
And the ATL, why not? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
By the way, that the hotel just killed it. That was amazing. That was one of the most flawless performances from us staff. And I've been to a lot of this, conferences and stuff. It was seamless and awesome.
Yeah. Well, the St. Regis does it right. I was talking to somebody else who put on a big production, and I told him, wow, the St. Regis was so nice. And he said, well, if we did our summit, and this was another person, if we did our summit at the St. Regis, we'd make no money. And I'm like, well, I guess so. But, it's a better environment for learning. And we had the audio production. We had a DJ. It was cool. It was really cool. I was super proud to be affiliated with that. That was fun.
And you kept mandating that we played like death hip hop and through the breaks, and I think you got a couple complaints on that.
Yeah, we got a complaint for, I think, God's Plan, the unedited version or the explicit version of God's Plan by Drake. But obviously they don't listen to the podcast, so they were not pre-warned that there might be some gratuitous use of 4-letter words.
Some we should have beeped it.
Yeah, we could be. Can we beep ourselves? That's kind of hard.
I refuse to beep myself. Yeah. I refuse. I will not live a beeped life.
Yeah, you're going to go full out.
I am. I'm going to play full out.
We'd love to talk more about the summit and how fun that was, but it's good to be back in the podcasting seat again. We've got some wonderful feedback. It's such an honor to be here in this venue to provide value to dentists, and just to get your feedback, your letters, your emails, and your texts of support fuel us forward and help us give this energy to put out what we think is valuable content for dentistry. And we're learning a lot in the process. So this is a great platform. I'm very grateful to be a part of it.
And we're coming up on the 100th podcast pretty soon of the whole show. I think we're at 90, is somewhere in 90. And so that's pretty cool. And, I set out with just kind of a fictitious goal of what I wanted the viewership or listenership to be. And it's kind of succeeded that this year, Craig. So our message is resonating with a lot of listeners, and it's pretty cool. The book launch has been cool. Have we podcasted since the book actually physically came out?
No, we haven't podcasted. We did the summit and the book, and we just dropped the podcast for a minute here.
That we alluded to the book for, God, it seems like 2 years, and then finally it went to print, and it's like, oh yeah, crickets.
Yeah, and our wives were like, "Oh, you guys wrote a book?" I'm like, "Yeah." And our wives are together like that.
That was the quiz on the table. Like, all right, who here are the wives at the table? We've only been working on this a year. Name the title of the book.
Yeah. I don't know. Bulletproof something or other. Bulletproof.
That made me feel proud and taken care of.
Yeah, exactly. That's your love language. But the book is doing well. We actually snagged the bestseller spot on Amazon for a minute. That was cool.
I think for literally one minute though.
Yeah, it's okay. All you need is 1 minute.
Quick, get the screenshot.
We got a screenshot of it. Check that box off. We've written a best.
The Titans of Dentistry is doing well, and I'm proud for those guys. That's what a concept. It's a great concept. Honestly, from the
work for Tim Ferriss.
I was going to say, off the tools of Titans. That's actually, ironically, that's actually how Dave Malloy and I met, because he's the co-author. Well, not met, but that's how we engaged in a conversation. I was carrying around the tools years ago. I was carrying around the tools of Titans, and he saw it, and he was like, "Dude, it's amazing, isn't it?" And I was like, "Man, it's like changed my life. All these stories," and it's just kind of funny the parallels. So maybe he felt compelled to put me in there because maybe it was part of a microgenesis of how it was the idea for the book. Maybe, who knows? But he's an awesome dude. I'm just glad for his success because he has a great podcast. He's gotten more into coaching now, and he's just a great dude. He's like committed to the process of betterment every day. I dig it.
Oh, that's great, man.
So yeah, you need to. So all right, so let's get into it. And actually, I know let's give this talk a topic.
Yeah. So what Pete and I were talking about before we hit record is there's so many different things we want to touch upon. I think a small podcast that would add a lot of value would be just like a dominating social media strategy. And that's something Pete and I really feel is near and dear to our heart. Gary Vee talks about how he did not recognize how significant online marketing would be. And even though he turned his dad's wine company from a $1 million wine company to like a $50 or an $80 million wine company, he really feels like he underutilized the internet boom that happened around mid 2000s, and he should have had a hundreds of million dollar company. And Gary Vee says the exact same thing is happening now, but with social media. So those that are riding this wave, of influence marketing and social media marketing, because it's still early adopter stage, are going to be dominant in the future.
And it doesn't feel like, obviously we can't cover all of social media in one podcast, so we could break it up. If we're just going to talk about it, but going into granular pieces, we can do that. But it's funny. I said something to Craig, or I said something at the summit that I think blew you away or gave you a little bit of anxiety. And
digital marketing company.
And it was meant to shock everybody into.
It shocked me, and I was standing next to
you. and the slide was, I wrote up there. I said, envision yourself as a dental digital marketing agency that just happens to do dentistry, right?
Imagine yourself a digital marketing agency that happens.
A digital marketing agency that happens to do dentistry, and people are like, "What?" And obviously, it's a little bit dramatic, but you have to, going back to what Gary Vee was saying, kind of listening this morning even to him, saying if the public doesn't know about you, if you're not relevant in the airwaves of what kind of Craig was even saying, the airwaves of our internet and our social fabric, you essentially just don't exist anymore in e-commerce and dentistry. I don't think is too much different. I think we have a little bit more leeway because we're in a professional market ship, but I think he was referring to more of like if you're a tire shop or you're a, I don't know, right?
Yeah, I think it's relevant for every business, but I always think about when my dad started practicing, really just needed a place to sit and spit, and you just had to do good work, and everything would take care of itself. And it's really the reason why that overwhelmed me and shocked me is it's the truth. And even for guys like you and me, I find it very
Well, that was the
overwhelming.
word of mouth. So let's unpack that for a second. I think this is important. Back then, word of mouth was actually word of mouth. Today, word of mouth is actually social media,
Exactly. It's the
right?
same concept. It's like I had a great experience. It's compelling me enough to talk about it. It used to have to compel you to talk about it that night when you're sitting around the dinner table or going out for dinner with friends, but now it's instantaneous. If you're not willing or actively curating those conversations, you're missing out on that whole megaphone, but it is overwhelming. I just want to kind of close that thought that it used to just be that you could just be a great dentist. And now there's great dentists who are going out of business, and there's ones that are mediocre who are killing it. And it's really unfair that it's not just related to your skill.
I think it's fair to say too, it's daunting. Creating content in social activity is daunting, even for, I don't want to say for even guys like us, but like even practices at our scale where we have lots of resources. So, I know it almost gets frustrating to hear from the the $1 million practice, which is awesome, right? But when you have a limited amount of resources and you have to do everything and you're having to, you know, do bill pay and marketing to say like, oh, now we got to create social media content, really? And we got to be actively, hashtagging and doing research here. It is daunting. I think it's overwhelming to say the least, even more so than it was when I was starting out um, in 2005 marketing, because it's almost a full thing in itself. Literally, I could hire someone today if I could hire someone today to 100% full time do social media and content marketing. That's
Well,
it.
content is hard too, because we all know these companies that will sell you content in a can. They'll remain nameless because they have some good and bad to them. But you can't just post Pete and I always joke about Garfield, brushing his teeth, that cartoon, and pop that on your social media. That was like social media 1.0, maybe 3, 5 years ago. You could just put in anything.
And
There's a
that's called
place.
checkbox. That was called checkbox social media, where it's someone told you had to post once a week, and you found something and you posted it.
Yeah, Star Wars week, and you
And you
posted the stormtrooper with the
no 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 no
toothbrush.
no. Well, that I'm saying that, but I'm saying from a checkbook, right? Check list standpoint, you want to say like, okay, did I check my AdWords? Did I look there? Did I look at my marketing? Did all these things? And oh, social media shit. I was told I need to post once a week, and then you just create something of zero value, throw it up there.
Yeah.
And great, now I can move on to payroll. Oh, great, now I can move on to getting back to this crown prep or whatever it is. So back in the day, it was totally, and actually not back in the day, I still see some of that. You still see some people who are posting stuff um, that you say, well, no wonder your organic following hasn't risen in 2 years, is because you're doing it literally to check the
Yeah, and
box.
the value of social media is not the checking the box, it's who's engaging in it. Social media, as defined, is media that people interact with. That's why it's called social. So if you're putting stuff on your page and no one is liking it except for your hygienist, it's time to reconsider what you're putting up there. And that goes to say, if you have stock content, stock images, that happy lady eating salad, or, if you have stock photos, to me, are one of the worst offenses in dentistry. I'd rather see the most real.
And that goes for web, meaning website. And so I think just university, I would agree. I mean, there's some places where you kind of need a stock and you need to modify it. Look, but as a whole, though, I totally agree with you, Craig. I think you need to curate your own shit.
Yeah, and as far as, there's one more little hack I want to talk about as well. A lot of the companies that I use that have review harvesting software as part of them, companies like, well, I don't even want to mention names, but you know who I'm talking about, all the usual suspects. A lot of those guys will say, make sure that when people leave reviews, it automatically populates into your newsfeed. And I have never seen a successful example of when you're deploying that for it to work in your favor, because what you're doing is you're clogging up the review. Like another
So what you're
happy page.
saying is you get a review and then automatically this software syndicates that review, puts it in your social media, and they're saying, hey, that's the easy button to get you some content deploying.
Right, but
And
it's no
what
one's
you're saying
interacting with it.
is that is almost, yeah. If you're
It's
going to
actually
do that,
working to your detriment, because
I was going to say 100%, you're going
the
to blow
news
up.
feed is the holy space of your social media life. And we all have that friend, or at least we've had friends in the past that are like, oh, like, you know, FML, it's Monday, or I just dropped coffee on myself, like shoot me. You unfriend that lady.
All right, so check it out. So it's about the end of the year. It's November or December 1st. I think it's always a good time to say, all right, 2018's in the books. What's social media going to look like from a dental perspective, 2019, 2020? Because everyone always, that's probably one of the most common questions I get is what's next, what's next, what's next. So why don't you give insight on how you feel that in this little sliver, social media, will be evolving?
Well, from a content standpoint, content is king. And I know that sounds cliche as hell, but if you can craft unique content, it doesn't matter about the distribution. The distribution will take care of itself. We all know the South Carolina dentist that did the Kiki thing, and he's been on like Ellen DeGeneres. So like there was no, unfortunately I didn't have a dancing class at Tufts 1998 in my dental class. But I mean, it's content is king. You can go viral. We see myriads of examples. Kylie Jenner is about to hit $1 billion and net worth, and she's done.
So that is a good strategy, though. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but that is actually a good strategy, and it's called news hacking, right? So you're taking
news jacking,
news jacking, news hacking, news jacking.
Yeah, news jacking.
News jacking seems a little bit risque, but news hack. I'm going to say news hacking for today.
I'm just in my head. I've got a whole bunch of sentences that evolve around newsjacking.
I've never seen you blush on camera.
I just blushed. I did blush.
So, like finding something relevant or something that people are doing and trying to infiltrate it or do it, and take advantage of it and seem relevant. It's a decent strategy. Sometimes it can blow up in your face, but that's what the South Carolina guy did, and he got 14 million impressions or views for $0
for free. Yeah.
$0. So he's his practice probably exploded, maybe with just women wanting consultations that really have no intention of doing work.
It's doubtful because he was on some very large national shows. Yeah. I think that adds credibility. I mean, you get in front of that many eyeballs,
Yeah, look, it's attention driven. Everything, our economy is based on attention. It's attention driven marketing, and he got the attention. He won that. So if he knows how to monetize it, it'll do well for him, hopefully.
So short of newsjacking or hijacking a story that's relevant, content is king. And I was talking to Peter about like this whole new marketing 2.0 idea. It's like it's a virtuous circle. It's basically take care of your team, take care of your patients, and then highlight what you do for patients and team on social media. The people that do it best are showing the results, showing the reactions of their team, showing the reactions of their patients. It's real. It's not a sterile picture of, Garfield brushing his teeth or another happy patient left to review. And most importantly is if you can get the conversation off your page and onto other people's pages, that's where the magic starts to happen.
Yeah, I kind of call that. I always say, and I'm sure you're sick of hearing this, that's the holy grail of social media. Isn't the magic that you create on your page? It's the magic that you can, if you can infiltrate if you can get your practice or your, you as the dentist or the what am I trying to say? The personality.
No, you can get other people talking about you on their own page.
In their channels, right? So, but everyone always thinks like, what can I do to populate my own page? And that's great. Like, but I'm not ultra concerned with like how many followers I have because no one really loves a dental page, right? They don't go to my Facebook and just snort around and look for stuff. But if I can get into my macro and micro and Pico influencers.
Pico. I've never heard that. Is that like macro, micro, pico? Is that what you're saying?
I just pointed out.
I've never heard of that. So it's a pico influencer.
So you heard it here.
He has 5 followers?
No, I'd say a pico would be 200, 400.
Okay. Did you coin that term? You're saying it with yeah?
I did.
You sound overly confident, but you've used some of my terms in the same level of confidence as well.
That's true. I have no problem, Craig hacking, not Craig jacking.
God, I knew you were going to go there. Beep that out, please. So anyway, yeah, it's true though. I mean, listen, it's great to have a massive influencer. Like, who's that lady that works, that's an influencer for you? Kim
Zolciak.
Yeah, I mean, 3 million followers or whatever, 4 million followers talking about you. But studies show that the micro influencer, the one that may just have, 300 or 400, but she's hyper local. She knows she's talking about the bakery in your main town. And, that's the cheapest advertising you can do, just to make her happy, a free tube of whitening, a reduced fee off of Invisalign, anything like that, and get her to talk about you. That's just
We
magic
actually
right there.
talked about that a lot at the summit, right? Like the practice influencer strategy and what to give and some of these things. And you and I have always said, like, you know, we are not opposed to giving away, like you said, free whitening trays or something. Like you have, like we dentists and we people listening to this podcast have something of value that the public wants. So leverage that, because your cost is super minimal in that, meaning you're not having to pay cash after tax dollars for whatever, right? You have the service that you can provide relatively cheaply for your marketing silo, I should say. So, even Invisalign, we've done, Greg, you've done some Invisalign for some influencers that,
Yeah, absolutely. I
discounts here and
have.
there. I've done some veneer cases. Well, I don't think cases, but I think I've done, so basically the point is incentivize that and tell people. I always say, make sure to tell people they're a big deal. Like your intro to them should be, hey, I know you're a big deal in the community. Like, who doesn't love to hear that? Like, you've already kind of won the conversation when you tell someone they're a big deal, and say, like, look, I would love for you to post something about our practice on your Instagram and Facebook. If you do, look, I know you're important. If you do, maybe I'll give you half off today. Would that sound like a good deal? And
Yeah.
if it's a hygiene check, and they'll be like, sure, I'd love to. And they probably do it for free, but like, it's always a good segue conversation if you can go in with value, expecting value. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think it's important to be explicit what you want in return. So, my initial foray into this area was like, hey, just hook me up, give me some social love. And that kind of backfired on me, because that could mean like, like I'm at the dentist. They don't even mention who
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
are. So you
Yeah.
want to be a little bit more explicit about,
Laser focused. I
yeah,
want you
what
to
you want to
tag me
say,
on
how many
Instagram
posts.
Wednesday at 3 o'clock and tag
Yeah.
me with the social mention.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, but make sure you actually get the at mention, the
Yeah. The
social,
location, put the geotag in as well. I mean, it does
because
you no
that
good.
helps you on levels beyond just eyeballs. It actually helps you in Google and metrics and SEO, and it's linked to your website and all that stuff. So I won't go into that tangled web of
But like
beautiful
we
mind.
talked about at the summit, there's no easy button on all this stuff. So it's hard to fake, really what's going to drive anybody, including the influencer, to talk about you, because everybody has, a need for authenticity and for being honest and whole, is they have to have an epic experience. So I know this is probably being beaten, this drum is being constantly beaten on by me and Pete, but it's so important that you really refine the experience. And like Pete says, you're a digital marketing firm that happens to do dentistry. You're also a customer service and experience environment that happens to be providing teeth.
Mm-hmm.
So especially, when you consider, I was on Facebook the other day and someone called out a quote on our book, and it was getting a lot of hate on it. It was actually saying, there was this quote that said, that dentistry is a portion of retail and that everything's discretionary. And taken out of context, as just a sole statement, that could be fairly polarizing. But really the meat behind that is that, we are competing in a retail-like environment. When people tell you they don't have money to do the root canal, the crowns, or the cosmetic procedure, you'll oftentimes hear them say 3 months later, like, I went on a cruise around the world. And you're like, what the hell? You told me you didn't have enough money to do this, but you went out and bought a new car, did a cruise. And it's really just a value proposition. So it's our job as clinical providers to provide that value and give that experience to enable the patient to say yes. I think that if you don't have that experience down, you don't have your case presentation skills down, if you're not looking at those metrics, anything you do is going to fall flat on you.
So I asked you 2019, what you see the trends? And so I'm guessing, extrapolating from what we just talked about, that you're seeing that the influencer space getting bigger and bigger.
Oh, of course. Of
Okay.
course. I think those who dominate the content are going to dominate dentistry. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because in dentistry, there's pages and influencers of dentistry that are really just more about serving dentistry. Like I follow several guys that I would say 90% of their followers are dentists. It's kind of like dental porn. It's like really heavy duty, like extractions and graftings and really intricate surgical procedures.
Dental porn?
Yeah, like they wouldn't want to be into like, it's not really the actual before and after result. It's it's the really heavy duty surgical
Yep.
procedures.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's not exactly an onboarding for
No,
nutrition.
God, no. If anything, it would dissuade them. They'd be like, I thought an implant was just putting this into my gum, and you're showing me like my gums filleted, like a, you know, like,
So do you know what CPM is, Craig?
yeah, of course, cost per thousand, cost per mil.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I would venture to say, and you can agree or disagree, that an influencer marketing is probably the most underpriced attention if you were to quantify it from a marketing aspect.
Oh, 100%.
Probably
Yeah,
your best and lowest CPM that you could find.
without a doubt. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
without a doubt. I mean, at this point too, I mean, it's just like pay per click Google advertising when it first came around was the lowest CPM until people started bidding on things. And, you could register a website for $20 and some of those websites were sold for tens of thousands.
I
So
did that.
this is just the same type of,
You know, that's how I put
yeah.
myself through some dental school.
You told me that. What'd you
Yeah.
buy?
Can't tell you.
No, didn't you sell it though?
I did. Well, I had actually had Las Vegas Institute a long time ago.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
My IT guy bought CraigSpodak.com and then
And
he
then
didn't sell it to me.
leveraged you.
Well, he didn't leverage me because at the time we had a good relationship, but I'm sure if the relationship went bad, he would have redirected it to something really bad.
All right, enough about you. Let's get back to social media. Um, just kidding, but I just was really wanting to hold this chart up in the air because it was popular from our summit. We gave this handout, and it was something because I think a lot of people struggle with. All right, you talk about content, whatever, but like, give me some ideas. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't even know where to start on it. And it was a bulletproof ways to fill your social media calendar, and it was some cool ideas of just like things to do that would be of value in content rather than the Garfield.
Yeah, I think video and visual is number one.
Video, absolutely video. But here's some good ones like post amazing before and afters. Like poll your followers, right?
Oh,
Like,
by the way, the before and afters, try not to use cheek retractors.
no, never use a cheek retractor.
People think
try
that
not
looks like
to.
a predator.
No, wait, don't even say try. Like, just don't do that.
Exactly.
Like, why would you do that? That's scary.
Well, I mean, you could use
the prettiest stuff will look scary with a predator mask on.
Yeah, well, the cheek retractors, if you zoom in close enough, you won't see it, but still, even the retracted photos are scary for most people.
Yeah, do not do that. You could poll your followers. I'm just going to name a couple of Gregs because then we'll have some. You know how I like to get strategic in the talks.
Strategery,
and put an inspirational smile quote. Probably not my favorite one. A testimonial quote and picture, like with some cool graphics, would be cool. The patient, maybe the patient of the day. Meet a team member with and maybe that team member would have a video. I think that's a great way to break down the barriers of dentistry. Maybe even you, of the doctor. Maybe people don't know much about you. Make a personality of you. I'm assuming that our audience is mostly doctors, but or hygienists or whatever, or whoever. Maybe an image of your screenshot of your Google and Yelp stars, because if you're proud of that, like I know Craig, you are, of your Google stars, you have 17 million or 16 million at this point. Let's see, an infographic of maybe something you've created, a fun fact of the day. Just, again, you have to be creative, and I'm just giving
anniversaries are huge.
Yeah, anniversaries, holiday posts are cool where you're actually, maybe the team has dressed up in Halloween costumes or Santa hats or New Year's glasses or whatever, right? Like, show the world that you guys are more than just mechanics of the
And the other thing you can do as well, look at your Facebook posts and go back in time, 3 or 4 months, and see what your audience is reacting to.
Yeah.
So see where the likes are. So if you have posts that get no likes, that's a really good learning lesson for you. And if you have posts that are really hitting well and reacting well, see what's the common theme. It's probably going to be video visual. It's probably going to be something about your team, something about an actual team member or you.
I have to say something in this, Greg, because it's important, and because I have a little anxiety right now because I feel like I'm not doing a good job on social media. I think decent. I think I'm doing a decent job, but I feel like I see all these opportunities for stepping up the game, but it's just so hard sometimes, and you need all this time and stuff. So sometimes I feel like it's a little authentic for me to say like, oh, we've kind of mastered social, but
Oh, no,
I don't think you can ever master it. So I want to make sure that's clear that like, we're not sitting here saying like we've mastered it, but I think we're totally committed to the process. And there may be periods or hiatuses where you go through periods where you're not posting a lot, right? But I think you need to be committed to the process, and if you've taken a break, get back, and then try and get some consistency. I actually think you guys do a little bit better job
Well,
at
listen,
Spodak Dentistry.
thank you. You got 15,000 people liking this. It's incredible, man.
That's on Facebook.
That's on Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
But looking through it, I'm just scrolling through right now. It's
Well, I wasn't looking for you like audit me per se. I'm just saying.
But I love it, man. You got the videos going down. I'm watching your stuff too, and I love that you put the subtitles on. That's another Gary Vee thing.
100%. Yeah, when you do a video, because a lot of people are viewing at work and they can't listen. And if they can't listen, they're just going to be like, "Oh, I'll listen to it later," and then they never come back because you've missed your thumb scroll. So yeah, so definitely put some subtitles. And subtitles, they find that the engagement is even on like YouTube is like, I think it's, I don't know the exact data, but I think it's like 4x engagement higher. So, and that's a simple, easy thing to do. So that's it, man. I think that's some good takeaways for social media. I think it's going to continue to have dominance. I think it will become, quote unquote, the internet. I think it'll be just almost as important as your website.
I think it'll be more important than your website. I mean, yeah, I mean, look at the way commercials have gone for a while. I remember 3 and 4 years ago, it would be like, you know, the Toyota commercial would show up on the TV, and it would be, go visit us at Facebook/Toyota.com or whatever, or Facebook.com/Toyota. I see the website as a place to do the deep dive after you're already interested. I don't see that as the primary entry tool for the consumer looking to do business with you. I see it's the social media. I mean, when Pete and I get a call from a dentist, they want some help, we'll dive in on that. We'll look at their Google reviews, we'll look at their social media page, and from that, we can pretty much garner what they're about. It's incredible. There's that much information. I see that as the primary entry point.
You do.
I do. And I think a lot of search is happening on Facebook. Like I just see people like, you know, they want to search their peers and not necessarily Google. Hey, who do you use to, you know, where'd you buy your Christmas tree this year? Or who's the dentist you're using? I'm seeing that's what I see Facebook being. I think Instagram totally different, by the way. And like Gary Vee says, everybody's a different.
See, I don't vet when I'm a consumer. I don't vet my businesses that with how's their social media presence.
Well, it's not saying you're not vetting them, but it's another data point.
Yeah. Or it may be another exposure point. You may see, like, all right, cool, let me check it out. It's like, this is what I do. And this, I think, happens a lot in dentistry. You look at their social media may capture your attention, and then you may, in your own due diligence, go back and be like, let me check out their website so I can have a little bit more, you know, another data point, like you're saying. And if that checks the box, then you're like, damn, I need to go to this place, right? Because I've already gotten social verification. Now I'm going to get data verification from a website standpoint. And that may be all you need to pick up the phone and call or text.
Well, also, you know, with the way Facebook and Instagram work, you know who's following a certain business. So you have this friend, you know, oh, Josh is super picky and he goes to, you know, Dr. Jones Dental. I'm sure it's good. So there's an implied endorsement from that. Just the likes on your page, and then getting people to check in and, you know, interact with you. And it's another whole level as well. In our practice, we incentivize check-ins. You know, we tell people to check in and they get, you know, certain things for it. So,
yep. And actually I think we should end on that. That's a great tip, especially for Yelp. It's the most important thing. And maybe we could say that's a whole other, you know, how I'm a Yelp,
yeah, he's got a special Yelp hack that's so good. He always says, should I actually talk about that? It's so good.
But Yelp actually, you know how Yelp is the community is super strict on their guidelines. You cannot ask for a review. If you actually ask for a review and get reported, you will get blackballed.
Yeah, blacklisted. Yeah, so we at one point had a little.
Wait, is blackballed a word?
Well, not according to Yelp. They call it blacklisted, but you can say whatever you want.
I just remember back from the days of
they'll excommunicate you.
Yeah, fraternity days or something. But yeah, so if you go against their terms of service or their policy by actually asking, there's big penalties because they want their community and the community and the culture, I should say the tribe of the Yelpers actually will enforce that. So don't go around asking. But here's where I was going with that.
I just want to give a real example of that by asking. That includes having like a sign like, are you a Yelper? Yep. Well, leave
us a review
and win a chance to get an iPad. That will violate your terms. You can't do stuff like that.
So the way around that, and I was actually told this by Yelp, was to offer something at check-in or some kind of discount or whatever, because if they know that you're there, Yelp will actually then remind the patient on your behalf later down the way, whether they leave the building. I don't know if it's a geofence thing. They will remind them like, hey, how was your visit? Leave a review if you liked it, right? And so it'll actually almost help you stay in that conscious of the patient, as opposed to having to go back and ask for the review. So that's the best practices for Yelp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's wrap on that. I want to try and
Sure.
keep them shorter.
Yeah, it's been 11:45 on your clock for the last 45 minutes. I just want to let you know that.
I feel like that makes me more efficient, because I'm like, look how much I got done. I'll turn around and nothing's moving.
Exactly.
Like, God, I'm so good.
But you're hungry as hell because you haven't taken lunch in 15 days. So.
So yeah, I think one of the goals I'd like to do for 2019, if we continue the podcast, is be a little shorter in length, a little more to the point, succinct. May not be possible, but I'm gonna start that. I don't know why I'm bringing that up now, but we've got another one. We're about to get online here with. I'm excited about Dr. Richard Evangelista. An amazing story, solo owner of over 40 locations. So let's save some talk power for him.
Some vocal power.
And Craig and I think we're going to do some more with just he and I going over some things, because lots of times I think so many podcasts are predicated on who's the guest, and it doesn't have to always be that way. I think we've gotten feedback that some of our best ones have actually been when we're just kind of rapping to each other about struggles or successes or whatever, and going micro with what we're talking about. So there may be more of that coming up.
And also, let's not forget that a lot of the guests that we're getting approached to put on our podcast, they've got something to sell, and we don't want to have a podcast that is
literally. And I tell you, there is one person a day who's coming on like, I think they'd be a great guest, and you look and it's like all they're going to do is pitch something. And so literally we don't even accept those, because I think that starts diluting the message of the podcast. So we are fiercely protecting this house, as I would say, from that, so that you guys are getting value, because it's fun. Glad to be with you again, buddy.
Yeah, it's good to be back in the saddle. I got a new microphone, so hopefully that's working well. This is podcast 2.0. I'm excited.
And you sound amazing. Yeah, when you were talking on your tin can micro, you were literally podcasting using the microphone from your camera.
Yeah, well, I didn't think anybody was listening to us, so
they weren't. Well, I think your family was.
No, definitely not my wife or family. No, people. That's the one. That's the.
So your dad's a dentist and he practices with you. Has he ever listened to this podcast?
No, never once. No.
Good talk.
Good talk. Right. But he's an older school dentist, and he's got his set ways, and he's just awesome. He teaches me so much every day. So listen, you don't have to be a podcasting dentist to learn. You just have to have someone that's willing to share it with you. So I've got that all over, which is great.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon on the next edition.
Take care, guys.